Alright, so today we're going to be doing a tube swap. This is a Wells Gardner K4900, but this tube did not originally belong to this setup. This is a tube, an Amplifone tube out of Atari Star Wars. And what happened is that this tube is just absolutely, basically, totally dead. All the color guns are dead. It's super dim, and I tried to fix it and rejuvenate it, but it just is too far gone. And you can see that there's actually even these giant burned holes in the middle here. The phosphor has just been, not holes, I'm sorry, but the phosphor has been just completely obliterated in these three spots because of issues when the original Amplifone monitor system deflection board died and I had the spot killer and it was just a dot in the center of the screen. It just burned these three spots in there. So it's not so bad on a black screen like Star Wars, but if you were to take this out and put it, let's say, my NBA Jam that I use as a testing board, it's very obvious. So that's problem one. Problem two was all the other things I just mentioned where the guns are basically zero. I took the tube off of this 4900 and put it in the Star Wars machine, and it's glorious. It's beautiful. It looks brand new. I can't get over how great it looks after getting it all adjusted. So I used the tube from this setup to swap into the Amplifone in the Star Wars to get that working and looking good. I took the Amplifone tube out of the Star Wars and put it back on here to see if I could possibly work some magic to get it to look okay, but I just can't. This is so far gone, it's not able to be brought back. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'll hook up the Rejuvenator to show you all of the problems that it has. I'm not going to zap it. I've already done that. It doesn't do any good. It doesn't work. So I'm going to show you what the condition it's in right now after the rejuvenation and show you that it didn't do any good and didn't take. These are very tricky to try and rejuvenate because they're kind of more sensitive than other tubes, but for the most part, yeah, I did all the correct stuff. It just didn't work. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, and the after. I'll hook up the Rejuvenator and show you what's going on with it. But for now, I haven't had it turned on in about 2 weeks. It's just been sitting downstairs for about 2 weeks. So now it's time to actually just fire it up and show you how long it takes to even give you an image, and then B, how dark and dim it is. It'll look better on camera, but in person it's not very good. Now, I do want to mention that a viewer sent me this nice little turntable here. He goes by the name of Arcade Dell. Sent me this nice little turntable that I can use to turn stuff around on. And it's very handy. Of course, I can't use it with 25-inch monitors because you can see how much distance I have here between the top of the frame and my light. I mean, you're talking a 1/4 inch up there, give or take. So I can use it for 19-inch monitors for quick disassembly and adjustments, and then turn it back around to see how it looks. So it's very handy for that. So thank you, Arcade Dell. I appreciate that. He also sent me an ESD mat that I'll be showing off here later on other videos when I do chassis repairs from now on. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let's turn this on, get it hooked up, and I'll show you exactly how bad it looks because it's pretty bad. Let me get a signal. Actually, you know what? See, this is very handy for turning stuff around. Thanks a lot, yeah. Okay, let's get this plugged in, and I gotta make a jumper. The K4900 requires the sync to be hooked up on pins 2 and 3, not just 3. So we're gonna have to make a jumper for that. Do I have my jumper wire? I do. So let's put this in here. And put this in here. Okay, so I've already powered this up. After I got back from swapping the tube into the Amplifone, I took this tube out of the Amplifone, put it in here. After I get all that done, I turned this on and got everything adjusted to the absolute best possible scenario. So you're going to see how that looks here. And there's nothing else that I can do. No more adjustments will make this look any better than you're about to see. Let me get my board plugged in. Okay, let's turn the line out. Power. And here we go. Power's right on, but let's just see how long it takes to even give you an image. Still waiting. Still waiting. go. Yeah, this thing is pretty much toast. I mean, the ROM check completed before we really even got a decent image. I say decent loosely. But yeah, look at that. Look how dark and dim. That is the absolute best settings that I can make it. I can't turn the brightness up or colors or anything more without the raster lines showing or without bleeding happening. So this is the maximum adjustments that I can make, and you can just see how dim and dull it looks. It's not very good at all. I mean, if you let it sit for maybe an hour, it might look okay, but this is just not going to fly. Especially for the center where it has the, see right there on the word secret, you can clearly see the burns. Yeah. The phosphor burn. And this is just very, very bad. And there's not much I can do with it. So yes, it does work, and yes, it looks okay as far as sharpness and everything, but for brightness and contrast and vividness and vibrancy, it's toast. There's no bringing this back. And there's no real reason to let it sit for half an hour, because it might gain maybe 5% more vibrancy than this. It just is not very good. And you can see why I pulled this out of the Amplifone in the Star Wars machine, because it just was, if I was to turn it up to where it gave you a decent image, it would get very blurry and very out of focus, and no amount of adjustment will make it come back into focus. So I had to turn the brightness back down to get rid of the blurriness, and when you did that, you could hardly see the screen. The blue was dead. It's gone. So let's hook up the test pattern generator. The Rejuvenator. Sorry, I'm getting too old here. We'll hook up the Rejuvenator, and I'll show you just how dead these color guns are. And like I say, I've already rejuvenated this twice. Once when I first got the tube, because it was kind of dim like this, and it brought it back a little bit. For a couple of years, it looked fairly decent, but the last 6 months or so, it started getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So I tried to rejuvenate it again, and it did not work. So this time it's just completely dead. But it is a 40-year-old picture tube, and it probably had a lot of life on it, especially on the vector monitor or a vector setup. It probably made it go bad more quickly than a normal system would. But yeah, the tube swap into the Amplifone and the Star Wars worked just fine. So this is the result. Let me get the Rejuvenator hooked up, and we'll see exactly how bad this is. Actually, I forgot to show you here real quick, is one sign that you can use as an indication of your color guns starting to fail is if you turn off the monitor and they're still running in the middle of the screen, whether it's RGB or just G or B or R. If you still have your color guns showing in the middle of the screen, and the guns are still shooting electrons when they shouldn't be, and from everything that I've ever experienced, that's a sign of the guns starting to fail. So if you see here, I'm going to turn it off, and you can still see there in the center of the screen, I got a blue and a green, and now it's changing. You can see it doing weird stuff there. It kind of but it starts to fade, and up there it just did something. And the longer it's on here, well, actually off, the longer it's off, it'll start fading and fading and fading. You can see it fading away. So it's definitely got some bad color guns. And slowly but surely, come back! Come back, Shane, come back! Looks like it's going away, actually. It's kind of interesting optical effect. But yeah, so there's another sign. So let's get the Rejuvenator hooked up and check it out. Alright, so we have our Rejuvenator set up. It's powered up. We got our CR23 neck socket hooked up to the back of the tube. Sorry, I don't have it shown. I'll show it here later. But I want to go through some of the settings here and show you exactly what's going on and show you that these guns are bad. The red gun and the green gun actually read okay when it comes to the rejuvenation part, but on the emission, they're done. So I'll show you here. The blue is totally dead. So it's a 6.3 volt heater inside this tube. Most of these 19-inch monitors are all 6.3 volts. I can't ever recall running into one that wasn't 6.3 volts. So for the power off, it's the normal default setting. Of course, you have it powered off. When you go to set heater, you want it to be about 6.3 volts. And I don't even know if you can really see that because I'm kind of far away. But if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see that it's right about 6.3 on the scale, which is right where it should be. And then we go to our G1 voltage, and I always set it right around 35. Now, I'm sure some people are going to be on the comments, flooding the comments. You're doing this wrong. It needs to be set to this. You need to put this setting on here, and you're going to damage this and that. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never damaged a tube. I've never zapped a color gun. I've never caused a short. I've never irreparably damaged a tube to where it was working before. Now it's not. I've never done that with the way that I do this. That's all I'm going to say. Like I say, the title of the channel is amateur, not professional. So do this at your own risk. But the settings that I use, I have never done any damage. That's all I'm going to say. So I put the G1 voltage around 35. Give or take, you can see the bottom scale here is G1. I put it about 35, so that's where I set it. And the G2 cutoff voltage, you can adjust your RGB with these knobs here. So if we go over to red, which we're already on red, G2 needs to be about 30. So there's where I put the G2 voltage, is right around 30. And then we'll go to green, right around 30, and blue. Let's turn it up to roughly 30. Okay, so we got 30 for red, 30 for green, 30 for blue. So that's where I see blue's ticking down already. Blue is just gone. There's no saving blue. You'll see in a moment why I say that. So we got 30 on all of them. All right, so if we go to, now if we go to read emission, ideally, when you go to read emission, you would want your needle to be dead center or higher in the good range. You want the needle to be about center or more. Sometimes it can dip down into the yellow, and that means your gun's about starting to lose its emission ability to actually emit the electrons. So if we go to read emission, you see blue goes right down to bad. Blue is pretty much dead. And then if I go to green, it's slightly better, but it's still bad. Red, slightly better, still bad. Red and green are definitely bad, but blue is totally bad. Completely dead. So if I actually go to rejuvenate and I go to red, you'll see the needle jump up, and when you rejuvenate these tubes, the needle will come up to the good range and kind of flutter around a bit. And I don't like to zap these for longer than about 4 seconds or so. I'll do 4 seconds and let go, count to 5 and do 4 more seconds. I zap them twice, and then that's it. I don't do it more than twice because you can damage the guns and hurt the emission ability by zapping it for too long. So I do about 4 seconds, I let go, count to 5, and then 4 more seconds, and then I move on to the next gun. But if I go to red, and on the rejuvenate, and I hit the button with all of our settings the way that I do them, you'll see the needle will go up to good. Stay there for a little bit. Count to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go up to good. All right, so red, in theory, should have just have been rejuvenated. But if I go to the read emission, see that? But watch what happens. It just slowly starts coming back down. So the red gun is able to be rejuvenated, but it doesn't hold, and it just starts falling back down. So it's going to end up back down here at bad eventually. If we go to green, and we go to rejuvenate, nothing. Green won't even rejuvenate. It goes right down to 0. Green is dead. Blue, hit the button, dead. Same thing. Back to red, red goes up. So red is not completely dead, but for the all intents and purposes of displaying an image in colors, it's dead. I go back to read emission on the red. Like I say, I zapped it and it just comes right back down. So red, there's no saving the red. You can see it's going down, going down. It'll eventually end up back down here in bad if we just let it go. But we're not going to wait. So we're still on read emission. If I go to green, bad, blue, bad, and you saw that I hit the button to zap them. So it's just, this is gone. There's no saving this. It is completely no saving. It's, oh, sorry, it's dead. So it's a goner. Turn this off. So I'm not going to change any settings. Everything should still be correct. Well, I take that back. these settings are hooked up for this tube, and I had to adjust stuff to make it read what it's supposed to. So actually, in hindsight, after saying that, I should probably go ahead and turn the G1 voltage and the G2 voltages all the way back down, because we don't want to have anything set too high when we power this up on the replacement tube. So it's probably a good idea to do that. I misspoke, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking while I was talking here. Like I say, I don't like to, if I make a mistake, I don't like to do jump cuts and cut away, because we don't learn from that. So I made a mistake there. I should have said we want to turn all of the knobs back down when we hook up to our new tube, so we make sure we don't damage it by having something set too high when we turn our selection knob. So we got everything turned back down. We'll go back to red. So now what we'll do is we'll take this tube out, now that we've confirmed that it's pretty much toast, and that's why it takes 3 minutes for it to give you a decent bright image. And even when I say decent, I use that term loosely. It's just gone. So let me get the replacement tube, we'll swap it out with this one, and then we'll hook this up and we'll see what a good tube looks like when it reads on the system here. So give me a moment. Alright, so here we have our two tubes. This is the Amplifone one with the bad guns. This is a replacement tube that I was given with no frame and no chassis, just a tube with nothing. Well, actually, I take that back. It came with the side parts of the frame, the side pieces, but the bottom part where the chassis sits and all that, it's all gone. So just basically an empty tube with nothing attached to it. But we're going to be using this for the swap, and it does have some terrific screen burn in it. But for the purposes of the information of the video, I'm going to go ahead and use it. That way I can have it as a spare, complete working monitor and use it for like something like Galago or Pac-Man or something with a black background, or Galaxian, that the screen burn won't really be that noticeable. Also being behind tinted plexi. So it's still a viable replacement. So I'm sure it's better than what this is. When it comes to changing this out, it's just basically the yoke and the convergence rings. Now ideally you'd want to keep the convergence rings with the original tube. This is of course the K4900 yoke that I took off of the tube that went in the Amplifone and put it back on here for testing, but the yoke is interchangeable. However, the yoke rings you want to remain with the original tube. However, on this setup I don't have the original rings, so I'm going to have to use these. So we'll see how that turns out, but it's very simple. There's usually a screw or a fastener of some kind that you can actually loosen. Make sure you want to get it completely loose. Then you should be able to just take your rings off. Just like that. And there's your convergence rings. And the next step is the yoke itself. Now this particular one has a little turn dial here that we can actually just loosen that up. And the yoke should slip right off. Just like that. So now the tricky part is transplanting onto this one and getting everything adjusted right. So now that we're done with this one, we can get it out of the way. And we can concentrate on this one. So of course you want to set this up properly. You can see that our anode hole is right here. So this is the top of the tube. So you want to set it where you have your top of your yoke with your yoke windings on the top as well. So you want to actually put it in place like this. There we go. Now you also want to make sure you have it centered. As much as you can possibly get it centered, you want the center line of the yoke to be aligned with the anode hole. So you want to kind of eyeball it and get it perfect. If it's not perfect, you can adjust it later. If your image is shifted, you can adjust the yoke at a later time. But you also want to make sure it's equidistant on the neck. So if we look at it, yeah, okay, it seems to be good. You want to have it ideally seated fully down. If it's sitting too far up on the neck and it's angled one way, this way or that way, you'll have bad geometry issues or purity problems. So you want to make sure that it's not only aligned, that it's completely flat up against the stops. So I think we're good on the yoke. Let's push it down. As we push it down, we want to tighten it up. Not too much, okay, that's good. And then we want to put our convergence rings back on. And we can kind of see on the neck where they used to sit. I don't know if you'll be able, if I zoom in here, can you see that? Let me just take you off here. You can see here that we can kind of see where the yoke rings used to sit. So we can use that as kind of a guide. We'll have to, of course, turn these left or right, but we can kind of use that as a guide to see where they used to sit. And I'll just say roughly there, we'll call it good. And we'll also turn this to where the screw is matching the, let's do it right there. Okay, so we'll leave it there. We're not going to tighten it down because we may have to move it around later, up or down or around. So we're going to leave it right there just to see what we have. Alright, and I believe that should be it. Of course, we'll probably have to add some convergence strips and whatever else needs to be done. But that's really all that entails on an actual on a complete tube swap. If you actually have to change out the yoke and the convergence rings, that's really all there is to it. The next step is adjustments, and that's where it gets very difficult. So hopefully this will go well, but we'll of course have to adjust our purity and our convergence, and I've already got a video on that. That's a basic, very basic way of explaining it, so we'll see if I can make this work and cross our fingers. But first, before we do that, let's actually get the, actually, you know, let's just do it right now. Let's just do it right now. Okay, let's get our adapter on here. All right. Okay. We're all set up. All right. Let's see just how lucky we are on this tube, whether or not it's any good. I assumed that it was, but I don't know for sure. Okay, everything is down. Set heater. We want, oh, let's go back up, there we go. Okay, 6.3 G1 voltage. We want to about 35. All right, G2 cutoff for red. We want 35. Green, 35. Blue, 35. Okay, now the question is, if we go to read emission, on read emission, how low or how high will the needle go? So if we go to, we're on red, read emission. See that? Boom, that's what it should be. Red, green's a bit lower, blue, good. So there's an example of what it should be when you go to read emission. It should be in the good, medium, or a bit higher. As you saw on the Amplifone, all of them just went right over to bad, so it's definitely a goner. So now if we go to rejuvenate, we'll go to red, and we'll 1, 2, 3, 4, let it go. Man, that went way up there. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Green. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Blue. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, clean and balance. I forgot to do color tracking, but shouldn't be too difficult. We'll do, I just put it right where it says set tracking, about 38 or so. So if we go down to clean and balance, red, right to the center, green, right to the center, blue, right to the center, not quite, but close enough. We'll go to remove shorts. Go to red. You won't see the needle move. It won't move on you. Just hold it for a few seconds. You don't hear any cracking and popping in the neck, then you should be okay. Green there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing. Blue. No cracking and popping. No shorts. All right. That should be it. So let's get it back in the frame, hook it up to the chassis, and turn it on and see if it takes 5 minutes to get a decent image, or if it gives you a good image right away. And I want to show you how bad the screen burn is. So let's see what happens. Okay, tube is back in the frame. We're all hooked up where everything needs to be. And let's see how it turns out. But before we do, look at this. Holy cow, that's bad. Oh, man. Empire City 1931. I can say I don't think I've ever actually played that game. Obviously, it's set on this screen for quite a while. But like I said, there's no reason to really throw this away, because this could easily be used in a Galaga or Pac-Man or Galaxian or something with a black background that this wouldn't really be too noticeable behind a tinted plexi. So not really a reason to get rid of this just because of that. But it's time to see what it looks like. Gonna turn the light out and see what we get. Let's kill this one. And I need to plug my camera in before the battery dies. There we go. And we'll kill this one. And let's see if we're lucky. 1, 2, 3. Crackles to life. And we already shot it. Well, that's already... Man, look at that! That's amazing. Look how much better that is. Holy cow. And we have a little bit of convergence problems, but on this screen, not bad. And as that powers up, you can't really even see the screen. Well, you can. Now that this screen's on there. Let's turn our brightness down. I don't want to get shocked here, so let's turn our light on. And we want our brightness to be about there. Oh, nope, a little bit more. Right there. Okay. Yeah, see, it's not as bad with the brightness set correctly. And look at this. There's hardly any convergence problems on this here or anywhere. Looking good so far. I might have to adjust our focus here a little bit. That's good. Well, obviously our colors are wrong, or not too wrong, but let's adjust our... where is my adjustment tool? It's never easy. Ugh. Roughly there. Gotta turn our red down. All right. Well, I'd say we are much more successful with this than the other tube. All right, let's, what should I do here? Let's get a stagnant image. Diagnostic tests. Whoa, we need to turn our colors down. Something awful. All right. This is going to be tough here. Are we even still in frame? We are. Okay. There's red. Green is overdriven. Something awful. There we go. Blue. There's blue. All right. That took care of our bleeding. Just a quick adjustment on colors, and that's looking pretty good. Except for the... Okay, we got good focus. All right, we do have convergence problems, so let's go to monitor patterns, crosshatch. Okay, and let's zoom in here a bit and see if we can get this figured out. All right. It doesn't like me moving these. Okay, that seems all right. Well, let me separate these. They're glued together. There we go. Okay. And that's looking better. And purity, yeah, seems all right. How's that look? Good enough for government work? Just for a quick adjustment? I would say yes. Right here maybe, it's not too good, but that's going to need to be convergence strips to fix that. But I say overall, just for a quick adjustment, that's pretty good. Let's kill our light. So after some quick color adjustments and some quick adjustment of the convergence rings, yeah, that's looking pretty darn good. Let's escape back out. We don't have any purity problems because we have a nice bright red screen without any discoloration. Green is good, blue is good. So we got our yoke situated perfectly first try. It appears to need to be tweaked roughly this way a bit. Yeah, it's dirty on top, but there's a bigger gap over here than there is on this side, so we need to tweak it roughly this way just a twinge. So if we loosen this up and just turn this ever so slightly, I would say that is perfect. Okay, I think we're good to go. Well, yeah, unfortunately turning those colors down kind of affected our, I'll say right there. That looks, the colors aren't perfect. This is actually, it needs to be more, I think I need a bit more red, but if I induce more red it'll bleed. Let's see here, red drive. Yeah, we're gonna go right there with it. Yeah, I think that is fantastic. Nope, still got some bleeding. If we turn this down a bit, oh, right there. I'll say that's good enough for government work. It's a bit too green. That's better. Hot diggity. Shazam. See, obviously that screen burn is noticeable, but in the heat of the moment while you're playing the game probably isn't too bad. But like I say, behind a tinted plexi or a game where it's mostly a black background, I think it'll be just fine. Is that in the glass or is that... There we go. All right. That's something else. Okay, successful tube swap. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something. And I appreciate everybody following along with all these repairs. I just got another box of 3 or 4 chassis that'll have to be gone through, so lots more content on the way. Stay tuned and subscribe, like, share, and comment if you want to. I appreciate it. See you next time.